part and began to concentrate on information, what was till then seen as a loss to be minimized, that is disorder, became with the non-trivial addition of a minus sign an asset to be maximized. Of the four ingredients of the old economy, namely land, labor, capital and organization, land and capital became less important than the other two. The labor had to be more skilled, and the organization as the creation of order became the most important part of the new economy. Academics simultaneously created a shared facility, which is called, of course, the internet, the most democratic of entities, with nobody in charge, no real security, and no attempt to foil burglars. While the university's primary mission in the future will continue to be creation, integration, preservation, dissemination and application of knowledge, the internet is changing the way this role is realized quite dramatically. The World Wide Web is completely democratizing learning. In India, we are going all the way from Gurukulam, or education in the house of the Guru, to Sishyakulam, or education in the house of the student, with gurus distributed on the net. There are two corollaries to this development. The first is the rapid expansion of the service sector, whose approximate contribution to India's GDP is about 51%. The share of the manufacturing sector is about 22%. Today, about 30 years later, manufacturing is staging a comeback with design capability and IPR creation at its center. Taking into account the maximum estimated growth of the service sector and the agricultural sector, it is estimated that the manufacturing sector has to go at about 12% in order to achieve a 10% growth in GDP. This bodes well for engineering graduates of today in terms of employment opportunities. The second corollary to the development of the dual economy relates to the gross enrollment ratio in higher education. The gross enrollment ratio is simply the ratio of the number of people enrolled in higher education divided by the number who are eligible to enroll. All studies by the UN indicate that about 30% GER is required for India to take advantage of the global economy and to prosper in the global economy. Now, as it is, the Indian GER is about 20%, 20 to 22%. So, in order to change this to 30%, although we are creating a large number of institutions of the brick and mortar variety like this one, which I think are very important, the only way to increase GER to 30% is through the use of ICT in education. Hopefully, we will soon have virtual universities that will cater to the large number of people demanding higher education in this country. Of the three components of engineering education, namely knowledge, know-how and character, character is in the long run the most important component. Traditionally, our culture has been associated with non-violence and appreciation of the arts, pursuit of knowledge and wealth in that order. Non-violence is more than absence of physical violence, it is absence of malice and hatred, as Gandhiji told us. Our nationalism has been described even by the British as the only such movement which was free of hatred of fellow human beings. Since independence again, we have consciously made 5 important decisions in debates in the parliament, and we in India should be proud that in each case we chose what was the right path and resisted the temptation to take the easy way out. These are debates about, you can read about them, about democracy and totalitarianism, secularism versus fundamentalism, globalization versus self-reliance, defense versus development, centralization versus federalization. Even when it comes to detailed achievements, we often fail to recognize our great achievements in the face of non-ideal competition. Self-sufficiency in food, the remarkable achievements in defense, atomic energy and space, in manufacturing and in software. So I think you have, as young graduates, you have enough reason to be proud of India. just ignore the newspapers. They tend to sensationalize what's not really an achievement. But let me remind you that you are among the fortunate few that are well equipped to face the emerging challenges of an increasingly competitive and complex world. Every challenge is also an opportunity, and each of you can distinguish yourself as a leader provided you use your professional knowledge innovatively, tempered by common sense, character, and intuitive judgment. I wish you all a very happy and personally rewarding careers in your lives ahead. Before I close, let me extend a very hearty welcome to our chief guest, Sri Lakshmi Narayanan. He is, to begin with, a dear friend of over 2 decades. He has over 30 years of experience in corporate governance, in customer relationship management, and organization strategy, both in India as well as abroad. He is a founding member and presently vice chairman of Cognizant. An alumnus of the Indian Institute of Science, Lakshmi Narayanan is past chairman of NASSCOM and former member of the board of US-India Business Council. He has received numerous awards and honors from the industry, media, and academia. We are indeed very grateful to him for readily accepting our invitation to be the chief guest at this convocation. May I request Sri Lakshmi Narayanan to present his address. Thank you.
Dear Professor Anand, Board of Governors, Director Professor Jnanamurthy, members of the Academic Council, faculty, graduating students, parents, or I must say very relieved